After studying this module, you shall be able to know about the different models which are used in organizational behavior studies. You will also learn how these models function in organizations with respect to the concern of its employees' performance. A model is an abstraction of reality and a simplified representation of some real-world phenomenon. Three theoretical frameworks, the cognitive, behavioristic, and social learning frameworks, form the basis of an organizational behavior model. The cognitive approach is based on the expectancy, demand, and incentive concepts. Edward Tolman has made significant contributions to this approach. Behavioristic framework focuses on observable behaviors. Ivan Pavlov and John B. Watson were the pioneers of the behavioristic theory. They explained human behavior on the basis of the connection between stimulus and response. The social learning approach incorporates the concepts and principles of both the cognitive and behavioristic frameworks. In this approach, behavior is explained as a continuous reciprocal interaction between cognitive, behavioral, and environmental determinants. The Organization Behavior Model (SOBC) has incorporated the best aspects from the three frameworks of human behavior. In this model, the letter SOBC represent situation, organism, behavior, and consequences respectively. Albert Bandura, Julian Rotter, Salansek, and Pfeffer are the main proponents of this framework. In the OB model, there are some dependent variables like productivity, absenteeism, turnover, job satisfaction, deviant workplace behavior, organizational citizenship behavior, etc. The cause of these outcomes, like with some variables at the individual and group level, are called independent variables. In the context of the organizational environment, the independent variables at different levels interact between and amongst each other, giving rise to complex dynamics which lead to various outcome variables as mentioned above. For this reason, there are few absolutes in OB, as everything is contingent on the situation, which holds good for one situation but may not hold good for another. Models of organizational behavior explain the control of power in an organization and its effect in the workplace among the employees. Different models states different dependence of each model, and it explains the effect of each dependent on the management and employees of an organization. These models explain how management holds the authority, or let's say the power, and how efficiently they use it for getting a better result from its employees, while taking care of factors which affect the performance of the employees. The models that we are going to study are: number 1, autocratic model; number 2, custodian model; third is supportive model; fourth is the collegial model; and finally the fifth model is going to be the systems model. Moreover, all models are like shells layered as cover over cover on models of organizational behavior, covering upon the flaws of each model by another model, and the last shell making it as perfect as possible in terms of authority in charge and work performance appraisals of employees. Let's talk about the first model, which is the autocratic model. In the autocratic environment, the managerial orientation is formal, official authority. This authority is delegated by right of command over the people to whom it applies. Management believes that it knows what is best, and the employee's obligation is to follow orders. It assumes that employees have to be directed, persuaded, and pushed into performance. And such prompting is the management's task. Management does the thinking, the employees obey the rules. This conventional view of management leads to tight control of employees at work. When combined with the often brutal and back-breaking physical tasks of that era and the intolerable conditions of disease, filth, danger, and scarcity of resources, the autocratic model was intensely disliked by many employees. In fact, it still is. Under autocratic conditions, the employee orientation is that of obedience to his boss, not a respect for the manager. The boss pays minimum wages because he requires minimum performance by the employees. They are willing to give minimum performances, though sometimes reluctantly because of the wages that they get. They have to satisfy subsistence needs for themselves and their families. Some employees give higher performance because of internal achievement drives, because they are personally fond of their boss, or because they feel that the boss is the natural born leader, or it could be any other factor. But we see that in the autocratic style, most of the employees do give their minimum performance. The autocratic model is a useful way to accomplish work. We cannot say that it is a complete failure. Let's talk about the second model, which is the custodian model. Custodian model comes as an upgraded version of autocratic model, in which the managers actually tried to overcome the flaws of the autocratic model. In this model, the power was replaced by economic resources and authority was replaced by money. So, the notion of authority was similar and it was controlled by money factor instead of the managers. There are many things that the employees wanted to say, and sometimes they did say them when they quit or they lost their tempers. Employees were filled with insecurity, frustration, and aggressions towards their bosses. Since they could not vent their feelings directly, sometimes they went home and vented out on their families and neighbors. So, the entire community might suffer from this relationship. If the insecurity, frustrations, and aggressions of employees could be dispelled, the employees might feel more like working. Employers and unions and government began caring for the security needs of the workers. They were applying a custodial model of organizational behavior. The custodial approach leads to employee dependence of the organization. Rather than being dependent on their boss for their weekly bread, employees now depend on organizations for their security and their welfare. The custodial model is described in its extreme in order to show its emphasis on material rewards, security, and organizational dependence. In actual practice, this model also has various shades of grey, from dark to light. Its great benefit is that it brings security. and satisfaction to workers. But it does have its substantial flaws. The most evident flaw is that most employees are not producing anywhere near their capacities, nor are they motivated to grow to greater capacities of which they are quite capable. Although employees are happy, most of them really do not feel fulfilled or motivated. Since employees' physical needs are already reasonably met, the employer looks to security needs as a motivating force. If organization does not have the wealth to produce pensions and pay, organization does not have other benefits, then it cannot follow the custodial approach. Next we go on to the third model, which is the supportive model. The supportive model of organizational behavior had its origins in the principle of supportive relationships, as stated by Rensis Licken, who said, "The leadership and other processes of organizations must be such so as to ensure a maximum probability that in all interactions and in all relationships with the organization, each member will, in the light of his or her background, values and expectations, view the experience as supportive and one which builds and maintains his or her sense of personal worth and importance." The supportive model depends on leadership instead of power or money. Through leadership, management provides a climate to help employees grow and accomplish in the interest of the organization. They do all the things that they are capable of. The leader assumes that workers are not by nature passive and resistant to organizational change. They are capable of growth, but they need to have a supportive climate at work. They will show all kind of resistance and passivity if the organizational climate at work is inadequate or not supportive. They feel that the employees will take responsibility, develop a drive to contribute, and improve them if management will give them a chance. Management's orientation, therefore, is to support the employee's job performance rather than to simply support employee benefit payments as in the custodial approach. Since management supports employees in their work, the psychological result is a feeling of participation and task involvement in the organization. Employees may say "we" instead of "they" when they are referring to their organizations. They are more strongly motivated if we compare this to other models because their status and recognition needs are better met under this model. Thus, they have awakened drives for work. Supportive behavior is not the kind of approach that requires money. Rather, it is a part of management's lifestyle at work, reflected in a way that it deals with other people. The manager's role is of helping the employees solve their problems and accomplish their work. Let's go on to the next model, which is the collegial model. A useful extension of the supportive model is the collegial model. The term collegial relates to a body of people working together cooperatively. The collegial model, which embodies a team concept, was first achieved with widespread applications in research laboratories and similar work environments. More recently, it has been applied to a wide range of other work situations as well. The collegial model traditionally was used less on assembly lines because of the rigid work environment is made very difficult to develop here. A contingency relationship exists in which the collegial model tends to be more useful with unprogrammed work, an intellectual environment, and considerable job freedom. In other environments, the other models may be more successful. The managerial orientation is towards teamwork. Management is the coach, the builder of a better team. The employee is responsible to this situation, and his response to the situation is his responsibility. For example, employees produce quality work not because management tells them to do so, but because the inspector will catch them if they do not. So, they feel inside them an obligation to provide others with high quality. They also feel an obligation to uphold quality standards that will bring credit to their jobs and to their company. The psychological result of the collegial model for the employees is self-discipline. Feeling responsible, employees discipline themselves for performance in the team in the same way that the members of a football team discipline themselves in training standards and according to the rules of the game. Let's move on to the next model, which is the systems model. An emerging model of organizational behavior is the systems model. It is the result of a strong search for higher meaning at work by many of today's employees. They want more than just a paycheck and job security from their particular jobs. Since they are being asked to spend many hours of their day at work, they want a work context here that is ethical, infused with integrity and trust, and provides an opportunity to experience a growth sense of community among the co-workers. To accomplish this, the managers must increasingly demonstrate a sense of caring and compassion, being sensitive to the needs of a diverse workforce with rapidly changing needs and complex personal and family needs. The system model reflects the values underlying positive organizational behavior, where managers focus their attention on helping the employees develop feelings of hope, optimism, self-confidence, empathy, trustworthiness, esteem, courage, and resilience. Managers using the system model carefully protect and nurture their employees so as to develop a positive workplace culture that leads to organizational success and committed employees. Managers at all levels need to display two key ingredients. One is authenticity, which is the demonstrated ability to open themselves up to others by being transparent, while walking the talk of their underlying values and social intelligence. Under the systems model, managers try to convey to each worker, you are an important part of the whole system. We sincerely care about each one of you. We want to join together to achieve a better product or service, local community and society at large. We will make every effort to make products that are environmentally friendly. The role of a manager becomes one of facilitating employees' accomplishments through a variety of actions. Now let's conclude what we have learnt about the various models. We'll begin with the autocratic model. The model depends upon power. The managerial orientation is that of authority. The employee orientation is that of obedience. The employee's psychological result is dependence on the boss. The employee's needs met are only subsistence needs, and the performance result is minimum. Let's go back to the custodial model. You all must have understood that the model depends on economic resources. The managerial orientation is that of money. The employee orientation is that of security. The psychological result is dependence on the organization and not on the boss, as was in the autocratic model. The employee's needs met are that of maintenance. And what is the performance result? That is passive cooperation. Going on to the next model, which is the third model, which is the supportive model. The model depends upon leadership. The managerial orientation is that of support. The employee orientation is job oriented. The employee psychological result is that of participation. And employees' needs met are the higher order needs. And what is the performance result? That is awakened drives. Talking about the last model, which is the collegial model, I am sure you have all understood that the model depends on partnership. The managerial orientation is that of teamwork. The employee's orientation is that of responsibility. The employee's psychological need met is self-discipline. The employee's needs met are self-actualization, which I am sure if you have seen the need hierarchy given by Maslow, self-actualization is the highest form of need. And the performance result is that of moderate to high enthusiasm. Where several conclusions can be made about the models of organizational behavior. They are in practice subject to evolutionary change. They are a function of prevailing employee needs. There is a trend towards newer models, and any of the models can be successfully applied to the same situation. In addition, the models can be modified and extended in a variety of ways. For example, firstly, evolving usage. Managerial, on a broader scale, organizational use of these models tends to evolve over time. This mistake was made by some managers about both the autocratic model and the custodial model, with the result that they became psychologically locked into these models and has difficulty altering their positions when the conditions demanded it. Then we can go on to altering models when we are talking about the effectiveness of current models. The primary challenge for management is to identify the model it is actually using and then assess its current effectiveness. This self-examination can be a challenge for managers who tend to profess publicly one model. Example, the supportive, collegial or sister model. Yet, practice another one. This may occur in multinational firms. You can see managing across national boundaries. In effect, a manager has two key tasks. One, to acquire a new set of values as models evolve. Two, to learn and apply the behavioral skills that are consistent with these values. Thirdly, it is the effect of satisfied needs. A number of people have assumed that emphasis on one model of organizational behavior is an automatic rejection of all the other models. But comparison suggests that each model is built on accomplishments of the other. For example, adoption of a supportive approach does not mean abandonment of custodial practices that serve necessary employee security needs. Increasing use of some models. A third conclusion is that the trend towards the supportive, collegial and system models will probably continue. Despite rapid advances in computers and management information system, top managers of giant complex organizations cannot be authoritarian in the traditional sense and also be effective at the same time, because they cannot know that all that is happening in their organizations is actually in their notice. They must learn to depend on other concenters of powers nearer to operating problems. The contingent use of all models very useful. The conclusion is that knowledge and skills vary among the managers. Role expectations of employees differ depending upon cultural history. Policies and ways of life vary among organizations. Perhaps more important, task conditions are different. Some jobs may require routine, low-skilled, highly programmed work. That will be mostly determined by higher authority and will provide mostly material rewards and security. When we are talking about the autocratic and the custodial conditions, I am sure you are able to understand this. Now let us summarize the module that I have taught you. Number 1, models influence managerial perceptions of the world around them. Number 2, models define one's boundaries and provide prescriptions for how to behave. Number 3, models encourage resistance to change since they have often worked in the past. And number 4, models may either consciously or unconsciously affect one's behavior. Let's start with the autocratic model. This model came around at the time of Industrial Revolution in the 1800s and 1900s. It depends on power. The manager has the power to demand you do this or else, and the employee who does not follow orders is punished. The manager has formal official authority over the employees. This model assumes that employees have to be directed and pushed into doing the work. Let's go to the second model, which is the custodial model. In the late 1800s, employers realized that employees might work better if their basic needs are more satisfied, if they are more secure, and they have a better quality of work life. This was called paternalism, taking care of employees by providing them with benefits to meet their security needs. Going on to the custodial approach. The custodial approach depends on economic resources, mostly money for the wages and benefits to motivate the employees. The company having enough money to cover these costs can follow the custodial approach. For example, the benefits could be ranging from housing, medical care and insurance, fewer working hours, sick pay, pension and paid vacation time off. Let's talk about the supportive model now. The supportive model came from research done in the 1920s and 1930s. It depends on leadership, not authority or money. Through leadership, managers provide a work situation in which employees can develop. The supportive model assumes that employees want to work and will take responsibility. Employees are encouraged to be involved in the organization. Employees are more strongly motivated because their status and recognition needs are better met than with the earlier models. Moving on to the collegial model. This model began about 50 years ago. Collegial means people working together cooperatively. In this model, management builds a feeling of partnership with the employees. The environment is open and people tend to participate. Next is the systems model. This is the most recent model. In this model, people want more than money, job security and cooperative teams. Employees today want money, job security and cooperative teams, but apart from that, they also want trust, an ethical workplace. They want their managers who are more caregiving, they are compassionate, and the workplace has a sense of community. The system model focuses on identifying, developing and managing the strengths within the employees. Managers focus on helping employees develop feelings of hope, optimism, self-confidence, empathy, trustworthiness, esteem, courage, efficacy and resilience.